At a certain high school, there was an extraordinary academic genius, a kid who could control his grades with pinpoint accuracy. While everyone else strived for perfect scores, he deliberately aimed for 0. Among his classmates, he was known as the king of failing grades. One day, their teacher announced an upcoming quiz show and the selection of a student representative to compete for a tempting prize. Dal Po, the king of failing grades, decided to unveil his true abilities. The teacher distributed the test papers. While everyone else diligently worked, Dal Po leaned back and relaxed. Only when the teacher announced that only 10 minutes were remaining did he casually stand up, write his name, and begin the exam. The teachers began grading the tests, their faces falling with each disappointing score. Finally, they reached the top 2 papers, scoring 92 and 96 respectively. Some teachers suggested they stop grading, assuming no one had done better. However, the homeroom teacher suddenly looked serious, and the others gathered around to witness a perfect score. But when they saw the name on the paper, they were stunned. It belonged to the notorious king of failing grades. News spread through the classroom like wildfire. When everyone learned that the top scorer was the king of failing grades, they were shocked and skeptical. Chan Su, the usual top student, felt threatened. He quickly rallied his group of female admirers and instructed them to spread rumors that Dal Po had cheated. The rumors quickly gained traction. Chan Su fanned the flames, insinuating that Dal Po might have stolen the test beforehand. The rumors escalated from cheating to outright theft of the exam paper. Everywhere Dal Po went, he was met with scornful glances. Hearing the rumors, the homeroom teacher called Dal Po aside and publicly reprimanded him, warning him against dishonest behavior. But Dal Po refused to confess to something he hadn't done. Everyone believed he was guilty, except for his niece, Choi In-ha. Ultimately, the homeroom teacher chose Chan Su to represent the school in the quiz show. Chan Su, living up to expectations, triumphed in the first round. He then publicly declared his affection for In-ha, his longtime crush. The class erupted in cheers, but In-ha's gaze drifted towards Dal Po's seat, determined to clear his name. At that moment, the homeroom teacher demanded that Dal Po apologize to the class. Dal Po, maintaining his innocence, refused. The teacher became enraged. Dal Po challenged him, asking for proof of his alleged cheating. The teacher retorted that the whole school was talking about it. Wasn't that proof enough? Dal Po glared at the furious teacher and noticed a female teacher printing documents in the background. A mischievous glint entered his eyes. "I'll make you a deal," he said. "If I walk out of here, I'll tell everyone you're having an affair with her. Then you can prove it's not true." He did it. He actually did it. The female teacher exclaimed, aghast, while the homeroom teacher stood dumbfounded. Dal Po rose to his feet. "You're assuming it's not true," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Then prove it. A taste of your own medicine." He turned and walked away, leaving the 2 teachers speechless. In-ha, determined to clear her uncle's name, rushed to his room to search for evidence. Finally, amidst a stack of comic books, she found an English textbook stamped with a town library's mark. A visit to the library led to a crucial discovery. Every book on the shelves had a borrowing slip with Dal Po's name, covering a vast range of subjects. She couldn't believe her seemingly academically challenged uncle possessed such a breadth of knowledge. In-ha began meticulously collecting the borrowing slips, photocopying them, and compiling them into a stack of evidence to bring to school. Meanwhile, Dal Po arrived at the quiz show headquarters for the preliminary rounds, easily securing a spot in the competition. Due to his last place ranking at school, he was pitted against the top student, Chan Su. From the very first question, he stunned everyone. The host posed the question. For every 43 people, one suffers from a peculiar condition where hiccup whenever they lie. This condition is named after which animated character? Dal Po decided to use his only lifeline, choosing Chan Su. "If I beat you in this round," Dal Po addressed Chan Su, "all you have to do is take 10 slaps from me." Chan Su scoffed. "What?" he exclaimed, then realized. "So you just want to get revenge for In-ha, even willing to waste your precious lifeline. You're that confident you'll win this?" Dal Po immediately answered, "Pinocchio." The host congratulated him and asked if he had ever met someone with this condition. Dal Po replied that he had, and that this person was unique, constantly lying and hiccup, earning the nickname, the Lying King. This comment caused ripples of laughter from the live audience, directed at In-ha. Furious, she vowed to teach Dal Po a lesson when he returned. The second question came swiftly. According to the 60-year kanji cycle, what year is this? This question triggered a painful flashback for Dal Po. He remembered his former life as Ham Yong, a celebrated child prodigy alongside his older brother, Jae Myung. They lived a happy life until a devastating fire broke out at a local factory. His father, the fire chief, led his team to the scene. A man reported 2 workers trapped inside, but failed to mention the presence of hazardous materials. Dal Po's father immediately led his team in, unaware that the 2 workers had already escaped and were, in fact, responsible for the fire. After the firefighters entered, the hazardous materials exploded. Tragedy struck the fire department. and the blaze raged until the following day. To avoid responsibility, the man who reported the trapped workers insisted he had informed the fire chief about the situation, but the chief recklessly led his men inside anyway. Strangely, only 8 bodies were recovered out of the 9 firefighters who entered. Then, someone reported seeing a figure resembling Dalpo's father in the pouring rain. As news of the fire broke, unscrupulous media outlets swarmed the scene, twisting a tragic accident into a story rife with suspicion. Strangely, the public readily accepted the narrative that Dalpo's father was somehow responsible for the fate of his team. Dalpo and his older brother were hounded by reporters, demanding proof of their father's innocence. Among them was a particularly malicious reporter who deceptively edited interview footage, splicing together a soundbite where she declared, "I'm absolutely certain the man I saw was the missing fire chief." This manipulated news report ignited public outrage. Dalpo's family was branded as villains, facing scorn and accusations wherever they went. Unable to bear the relentless pressure, Dalpo's mother took him to see one last fireworks display before taking her own life. When Jae Myung, Dalpo's brother, arrived, he found only a single shoe and a farewell note. Grief-stricken and enraged, Jae Myung lashed out at the media, but they remained fixated on exploiting the story. Unbeknownst to everyone, Dalpo was still alive, rescued by an elderly man suffering from dementia. The old man mistook Dalpo for his eldest son, lost at sea years ago. "This is my younger son, Dalpo," the old man introduced him. "And this is my granddaughter, Choi In-ha." "Granddaughter?" Dalpo was taken aback. Suddenly, he had a brother 20 years his senior, and a niece the same age as himself. Initially hesitant, the older brother accepted Dalpo, after witnessing his willingness to care for the elderly man out of gratitude. Dalpo never revealed his true identity, and their bond grew stronger over time. However, fate had a cruel twist in store. While helping In-ha fix her television, he discovered a devastating truth. The reporter who had torn his family apart was In-ha's mother. His demeanor towards In-ha instantly changed, and he began teasing her relentlessly. But having grown up together, a deep affection had already blossomed between them. Hearing about In-ha's bet with the top student, Dalpo unhesitatingly entered the quiz show and decisively defeated his rival. With his mission accomplished, Dalpo began his journey home. Looking at the darkening sky, In-ha knew he wouldn't have an umbrella and rushed back to their village. In the pouring rain, she waited at the bus stop. Seeing In-ha asleep, Dalpo realized how long she'd been waiting. Just as In-ha awoke and saw him approaching with an umbrella, she noticed it was broken. As she looked on, puzzled, Dalpo placed 2 funnels on her head, looking at her sternly. "Don't get the wrong idea," he mumbled. "Grandpa told me to come get you. He was worried you'd get wet. It's not like I care or anything." Really. Deep down, Dalpo knew a relationship with In-ha was impossible. She still cherished her mother, while he could never forgive the woman who destroyed his family. Several years passed. After graduating high school, Dalpo became a taxi driver to support his family. In-ha pursued her dream of becoming a reporter, but her Pinocchio syndrome, causing her nose to grow when she lied, made her job challenging. One morning, she asked Dalpo for a ride to an interview. Dalpo, amid a pleasant dream, accidentally grabbed her skirt. "Pervert!" In-ha cried, giving him a swift punch to the eye. This angered his grandfather, who scolded her with a spoon, reminding her never to hit her uncle. Feeling utterly defeated, In-ha reluctantly finished her breakfast. Together, she and Dalpo headed to the location of her 35th job interview. Seeing her nervousness, Dalpo told her to spend 5,000 won on a good luck charm. Unexpectedly, she received a text message from her mother, who had been absent for 13 years. Overjoyed to the point of tears, In-ha excitedly told Dalpo, who remained unmoved, still harboring resentment towards the woman. Arriving at the interview, In-ha threw open her arms, ready to embrace her mother. But the reunion wasn't the joyous occasion she'd envisioned. Her mother displayed no warmth, and the other interviewers, noticing In-ha's Pinocchio syndrome, declared her unsuitable for a reporting career. In-ha couldn't help but retort, "Wouldn't a reporter who can't lie be more trustworthy to the audience?" Her mother, the same woman who had callously ruined their family, presented In-ha with a test. If she could complete it without a hiccup, she'd get the job. Predictably, In-ha failed. Her mother promptly dismissed her, claiming she lacked the necessary qualities to be a reporter. Devastated, In-ha walked out, bewildered by her mother's coldness. She needed to confirm one thing. Waiting for her mother outside, she asked about the text message, only to discover her mother had changed her number long ago. In-ha was crushed. For so many years, her mother hadn't cared about her at all. Trembling, she whispered, "Mom, I missed you." The woman briefly embraced her, and just as In-ha felt a flicker of hope, her mother uttered, "I've been too busy to miss you." In-ha's heart turned to ice. She called the number that sent the text, demanding to know why they'd given her hope, only to snatch it away. The person on the other end remained silent. Dalpo, waiting across the street, saw In-ha emerge in tears. He wanted to comfort her, but traffic blocked his way. He quickly called her, but she sent a text instead, saying she was with her mother and couldn't talk. Seeing her crying from afar, Dal Po, wanting to protect her pride, didn't expose her lie and simply texted back, asking how things were going. In Ha lied, saying her mother had treated her well. Dal Po, deciding not to disturb her further, drove away. But halfway down the street, worried about her, he turned back. By the time he arrived, In Ha was gone. He spotted her mother waiting for a taxi. Filled with resentment towards the woman who had shattered his family, he nonetheless pulled up and offered her a ride. Meanwhile, utterly despondent, In Ha gathered all her books and articles on journalism and carried them to the rooftop, intending to burn them. Back at home, Dal Po's grandfather noticed In Ha's distress and mentioned it to Dal Po, who immediately rushed to the rooftop, fearing the worst. Finding the rooftop empty, he anxiously called her name. Just then, he heard a muffled sob and saw In Ha's feet sticking out from behind a wall. Relieved, he approached her. He told her he knew what had happened, making her even more ashamed to face him. He had sacrificed his education so she could pursue hers, only for it to end in repeated rejections. Overcome with guilt, she confessed she never wanted to be a burden, but reality had proven too harsh. She wanted to burn the books, to give up on her dream. Dal Po pulled the books away. He asked, "Do you really want to quit?" She insisted she did, but her choked sobs betrayed her true feelings. Frustrated, she grabbed the books again, but Dal Po stopped her, his expression serious. He declared, "Let me help you become a reporter." Dal Po resolved to study intensely for a month, to help In Ha prepare for her next interview. Though blessed with a photographic memory, he knew hard work was still essential. They practiced on the rooftop during the day, and to avoid his grandfather's notice, Dal Po studied late at night under a dim light. Hearing his grandfather return, Dal Po quickly hid his studies, resuming them only after the old man had retired to his room. Unbeknownst to Dal Po, his grandfather had already discovered his secret. Wise and understanding, the old man didn't say a word, only gazing at the sleeping, exhausted Dal Po, and gently stroking his hair. An idea sparked in the old man's mind. The next day, he bought a fashion magazine from the library and took Dal Po to a barber, selecting a stylish haircut from the magazine. He then presented Dal Po with a suit, tie, and leather shoes. The transformation was complete. Dal Po looked incredibly handsome. "Wow," he breathed, looking at his reflection. "Who is this?" On their way home, Dal Po kept checking his reflection, slightly worried that he no longer resembled his grandfather's goofy son. It turned out that a year after rescuing Dal Po, his grandfather had realized he wasn't his eldest son. But to protect Dal Po from being sent away, he pretended not to know. He reassured Dal Po, telling him not to worry about anything and to simply live his life to the fullest. Deeply touched, Dal Po embraced his grandfather, tears streaming down his face, promising to always be his son. Arriving home, Dal Po's brother failed to recognize him, wondering who their grandfather had brought home. "What guest?" The old man chuckled. "This is your brother." Just then, In Ha walked in. She asked, "Is that really you, uncle?" Stunned, the grandfather beamed, praising Dal Po's handsome features, reminiscent of his youth. Dal Po's brother, noticing his daughter's captivated gaze, and reminded of his boast from the previous day about her being the prettiest and cutest girl, now felt In Ha pale, in comparison to the dashing Dal Po. He couldn't resist scolding her for her perpetually frumpy attire. In Ha rolled her eyes, retorting that he'd once called her more beautiful than Miss Korea. He grumbled, "That's because I was drunk." He chided her for her lack of style, warning her that people would look down on her. Exasperated, In Ha declared it impossible for anyone to look down on her, because Dal Po had never seen her as a woman, and she had never seen him as a man. Dal Po, overhearing this, sadly closed his door, missing the rest of her sentence. But someone as talented, kind, and now handsome as Dal Po, well, maybe he wouldn't be such a bad option after all. The once goofy boy had blossomed into a remarkably attractive young man. To prepare for the reporter interviews with In Ha, Dal Po condensed 3 years of specialized study into a single month. In Ha's 36th interview began, and Dal Po encountered his biggest romantic rival, Byum Jo. It turned out Byum Jo was the one who had been texting In Ha all these years, using her mother's phone. Unaware of this, In Ha had been pouring her heart out to her mother for 13 years, unknowingly causing Byum Jo to fall for the girl he'd never met. Learning about In Ha's interview, he followed her. The preliminary round began, and the three of them were placed in the same interview group. Noticing Byum Jo's constant glances at In Ha, Dal Po stepped forward, subtly placing himself between them. The interviewer instructed them to stand in numerical order and then report on the contents of a video clip. Their performance would be evaluated. This format disadvantaged the first reporter. Unfortunately, Dal Po was first. After watching the video, he delivered a standard factual report. The next two candidates embellished Dal Po's report, adding their flair and making it more engaging. When it was In Ha's turn, she followed Dal Po's lead, sticking to a straightforward, factual presentation. The interviewers, puzzled by In Ha's straightforward reporting, asked why she hadn't embellished the facts. In Ha, honestly replied that she couldn't lie. Just as she was about to explain her Pinocchio syndrome, both Dalpo and Byung-jo simultaneously interrupted, identifying themselves as reporters. Dalpo argued that reporters should prioritize factual accuracy, avoiding exaggeration and distortion without proper verification. Byung-jo concurred, stating that it was better to have a news blackout than to report false information. The preliminary round quickly concluded. While awaiting the results, In-ha lamented her performance. Dalpo comforted her, saying, "If we can't be peas in a pod, it's better to fail together." "No way," In-ha retorted. "One pea is better than two." Immediately realizing her slip-up, she covered her mouth. Dalpo, mused, pressed her for an explanation. In-ha tried to escape, but Dalpo blocked her, playfully pinning her against the wall. Left with no choice, she stammered, "One pea is better than two peas together and far apart." Dalpo, however, countered that being apart wouldn't be meaningful at all. Byung-jo witnessed this intimate exchange. The list of successful candidates was posted, and everyone rushed to check. 03444, Byung-jo, Dalpo, and In-ha had all passed. They excitedly called home with the good news. Their grandfather was overjoyed, encouraging them to continue their hard work. However, Dalpo's brother, sitting beside him, grew increasingly anxious. Imagining uncomfortable scenarios of the two working together, he pictured them tying each other's ties, having breakfast together. He angrily threw a pillow across the room. But as he watched the topic for the next round of interviews being revealed, Dalpo's face drained of color. It was about his father's fire accident. His father's remains had been discovered 13 years after the fire. The news that year had devastated his family, leading to their downfall. Now, they were supposed to debate who was at fault. Dalpo was shattered. He believed his father had abandoned them with his older brother, which is why he contentedly stayed with his grandfather. Now, he learned his father had been wrongly accused. Watching the other candidates express their opinions, Dalpo struggled to contain his rage. Then, In-ha spoke. She argued that the fault lay with the person with Pinocchio syndrome. Because everyone knew he couldn't lie, his testimony convinced the police, the media, and the public, leading to the tragedy. She concluded that no one was truly to blame. It was simply a tragic accident. In-ha had no idea her words would trigger Dalpo's fury. He countered, his voice shaking. "How can you say no one else is to blame? Pinocchio can't lie. But what about the reporters? Shouldn't they have verified the facts? They should understand their words carry more weight than others. Shouldn't they be more cautious?" But they clearly hadn't understood. Seeing In-ha's unwavering stance, Dalpo finally understood why people with Pinocchio syndrome couldn't be reporters. As long as they believed they were right, they wouldn't hiccup. Seeing Dalpo's anger directed at her, In-ha sadly left the interview room, ignoring the ongoing proceedings. Byung-jo followed her. In the elevator, he tried to comfort her. In-ha felt a pang of regret. While she understood the importance of expressing her viewpoint in a debate, she'd hoped Dalpo would support her. Sensing her disappointment, Byung-jo asked if she liked Dalpo. In-ha instantly denied it, but immediately her sobs betrayed her. Meanwhile, Dalpo went to the rooftop. Learning that his father hadn't abandoned them, and was, in fact, a hero, he finally released years of suppressed grief, sobbing uncontrollably. Unbeknownst to him, his brother Jae-myung, having laid their father to rest, was consumed by vengeance, plotting against those who had destroyed their family. He targeted the man with Pinocchio syndrome, feigning a fall and, accidentally, picking up the man's wallet. He then used the information in the wallet to lure the man to a secluded location, pretending he'd left his wallet there. As the man leaned over an open manhole, Jae-myung slammed the cover shut and weighed it down with bricks. Despite the man's desperate pleas, Jae-myung remained unmoved. In-ha, burdened by her Pinocchio syndrome, had endured 36 failed interviews. Dejected, she worked at a supermarket, as arranged by her father. "Is it fair?" she sighed to a customer. "He studied for only a month and passed, while I prepared for 3 years and failed." Just then, Byung-jo, harboring a secret crush on her, appeared. Believing Dalpo was her uncle, he tried to comfort her. Returning home, In-ha saw Dalpo discussing work with his grandfather. Remembering Dalpo's assertion that she couldn't be a reporter, she retaliated by dipping his toothbrush in the toilet, before placing it back, seemingly undisturbed. As Dalpo reached for his toothbrush, she quickly tossed his toothpaste in the trash, leaving him bewildered. The next day, Byung-jo again visited In-ha at work, where her cold-hearted mother also appeared. It turned out her mother's company was suffering from a tarnished reputation and hoped to exploit In-ha's Pinocchio syndrome as a publicity stunt. In-ha refused, and her mother, resorting to emotional manipulation, urged her to reconsider. Looking at the business card, In-ha felt conflicted. Wasn't becoming a reporter her dream? Returning home, she ran into Dalpo in the elevator and led him to the rooftop, determined to cure her hiccups. "So," she blurted out, "I like you." Dalpo was stunned. He hadn't expected In-ha to reciprocate his feelings, but this realization terrified him. Her mother was his family's sworn enemy, responsible for his mother's death. He could never forgive her. In-ha, too, understood the impossibility of their situation. In everyone else's eyes, he was her uncle. She resolved to find someone else, to gradually forget her feelings for him. With that, she turned and left. Back in her room, after much deliberation, In-ha called her mother and accepted the job offer. What she didn't know was that Byung-jo, driven by his affection for her, had also joined the same company. Thus, In-ha finally became a reporter, but she and Dal-po were now rivals, working for competing networks. When Dal-po returned home, he saw beef tripe stew for dinner. The sight instantly triggered a memory of a gruesome crime scene from his reporting, sending him rushing to the bathroom to vomit. His family looked on with concern. Back in his room, Dal-po found In-ha had left him stomach medicine, reminding him to take care of his health. His grandfather also arrived with more medicine, echoing the same concern. Before he could finish speaking, his brother appeared, also holding a bottle of stomach medicine. Looking at the three identical bottles, Dal-po's heart melted. This bickering pair, originally intending to work together, now found themselves rivals at competing news stations. Dal-po teamed up with Won-ji, while In-ha partnered with Byung-jo. Coincidentally, both teams were assigned to the same police station for their beat, tasked with digging up newsworthy stories. Upon arrival, Dal-po, noticing the dark circles under the eyes of the other reporters stationed there, immediately realized this assignment wouldn't be easy. He ran into an old classmate, Chan-soo, now a police officer. They exchanged pleasantries, catching up on each other's lives. When In-ha arrived, Chan-soo, learning they were there to gather information, led them to a designated rest area. As he opened the door, Won-ji and Byung-jo also rushed in. The sight before them, a cramped, dingy room, almost made them drop their jaws. Byung-jo, accustomed to a life of luxury, found it especially hard to accept. To find leads, they began questioning the other officers. After a full round of inquiries, they came up empty-handed, even earning a reprimand from a senior officer. This experience nearly broke Byung-jo's spirit. However, In-ha saw a different side of him, appreciating his persistence. They observed Dal-po working efficiently, seemingly having secured a lead from a cooperative officer. In-ha, left with no other option, clung to her old friend Chan-soo. After much pleading, he finally offered a story about a woman who died from overexertion while exercising. Thrilled to have a lead, In-ha and Byung-jo split up to investigate, one going to the hospital and the other to the gym. Unbeknownst to them, this was the same story Dal-po had obtained. He and Won-ji also divided their efforts. The four reporters were now in a race against each other. A fierce competition ensued. Whoever obtained the gym surveillance footage first would secure the exclusive story. They all converged on the gym, but the owner refused to release the video, fearing negative publicity. After a combination of pressure and persuasion, the owner relented but only agreed to let them view the footage, refusing to provide a copy. In-ha and Byung-jo resigned themselves to watching the video and taking notes. Won-ji contemplated asking the owner again, but Dal-po revealed he had discreetly recorded the footage on his phone. Won-ji was ecstatic. They had won this round. The video showed a 330-pound woman exercising frantically until she collapsed. Initial investigations revealed she had been devastated by her husband, leaving her for a thinner woman. Won-ji was eager to break the exclusive story, but Dal-po felt something was amiss. He recalled In-ha's warning. "You're making a big mistake." Uneasy, he decided to visit the funeral home to speak with the family. There, he met the deceased woman's eldest daughter, confined to a wheelchair and clearly suffering from a serious illness. Dal-po introduced himself and offered his card, but the daughter revealed she had already given an interview. However, she decided to tell him the truth. She explained that she was suffering from severe liver cirrhosis. Her mother had wanted to donate part of her liver to save her daughter's life, but due to her weight, she needed to lose 66 pounds in a month to be eligible for the surgery. That's why she had pushed herself so hard, ultimately leading to the tragic accident. Before Dal-po could react, his erroneous report aired. Recently, a woman obsessed with beauty overexerted herself at the gym, leading to her death. "No," a voice cried out from the television. "That's not true. My mom did it for me." Dal-po was consumed by guilt. At that moment, the malicious reporter, In-ha's mother, aired the true story. It turned out her company had already uncovered the facts, waiting for their rivals to make a mistake and then deliver a fatal blow. The incident severely damaged the reputation of Dal-po's news station. His superiors angrily demanded an explanation, only to discover Dal-po was missing. He was grappling with his failure, alone in the conference room, where he had once debated with In-ha. He had criticized her for lacking caution and objectivity, unfit to be a reporter. But now, he had caused a tragedy mirroring his childhood trauma. How was he any different from the unethical reporters who had ruined his family? Returning home, he complained to his grandfather about the pressures of being a reporter, the low pay, the constant scoldings, and the endless hours spent traveling. He wanted to quit and return to driving a taxi. His grandfather asked gently, "Do you really not want to do it, or are you running away?" His words gave Dal-po pause. Lying in bed, staring at the dozens of missed calls on his phone, he thought about his promise to In-ha. He mustered his courage and returned to the station, ready to face the consequences. Expecting a harsh reprimand, he was surprised by his boss's calm demeanor. "You made a mistake, one that any reporter could make," he said. "This time, we'll let it slide, but don't let it happen again." Dalpo learned that after the story aired, the deceased woman's daughter had received an outpouring of support from the public. He returned to the police station, where he saw In-ha pestering Chan-Su for information about an arson case. He glanced at the details, then dismissed it. Just then, In-ha stumbled, and both Dalpo and Byung-jo reached out to catch her. She pulled away from Dalpo, allowing Byung-jo to help her outside. They left together. Dalpo watched them go, a mix of uncomfortable emotions swirling within him. From the police files, Dalpo noticed a familiar phone number. Checking his contacts, he realized it was saved in his phone. Sensing something amiss, he immediately called the number. He arranged a meeting in the town square, under the pretense of discussing compensation for a damaged car, intending to investigate whether the person was connected to the recent incidents. As the figure approached, Dalpo's expression shifted from anticipation to disbelief. The man's face was identical to his long-lost brother. He could hardly believe his eyes until the man spoke. "Ah, I'm Jae-myung." He was certain this was his brother. A chilling realization washed over him. The 3 victims of the recent incidents were all connected to the false accusations against his father, and all 3 had ties to his brother. He understood. Jae-myung was taking his revenge. Seeing that his brother didn't recognize him, he decided to keep his identity hidden for now. He said, "I'm Dalpo." Just then he saw Chan-Su approaching, and quickly pulled his brother away, but Chan-Su caught a glimpse of them. Dalpo took Jae-myung to a snack bar, intending to offer compensation for the car, but Jae-myung refused. "A little scuffle is a good way to make friends," he said. "Consider us friends now." Outside, Jae-myung noticed Dalpo's striking resemblance to himself. If his younger brother hadn't died, he would have thought Dalpo was him. "Hyung," Dalpo ventured, using the Korean word for older brother. "Can I call you that?" Jae-myung, pleased, agreed and drove away. Watching him leave, Dalpo felt a pang of longing and hailed a taxi, secretly following his brother, wanting to see how he lived. He had so much to say, but he feared Jae-myung's quest for revenge had turned him into a dangerous man. At Jae-myung's doorstep, Dalpo hesitated. He raised his hand to ring the bell several times, wanting answers, but ultimately retreated. He wasn't ready to confront the truth. Meanwhile, a man, stopped by the police for a routine check, suddenly sped away in his vehicle. Traffic officers gave chase, but the man refused to stop, driving recklessly through the streets. A young boy was slowly crossing the road. Seeing the approaching truck, he tried to hurry but stumbled and fell. The truck, now out of control, flipped onto its side and headed straight for the boy. In a dramatic turn of events, a water truck intercepted the runaway vehicle, using its bulk to stop the truck's momentum. The driver stumbled out, relieved to see the boy unharmed, then collapsed onto him, unconscious. In-ha's news team captured the entire incident. The story instantly became headline news, with the water truck driver hailed as a hero. The driver was Jae-myung. He sustained minor injuries. In-ha approached him with her business card, requesting an exclusive interview. Jae-myung, recognizing her as the daughter of his enemy, gave a chilling smile and agreed. The damaged truck was towed to a repair shop. Dalpo, recognizing it as his brother's, frantically inquired about the driver. Learning he was being treated at the hospital, he rushed there. He arrived during Jae-myung's interview. It turned out Jae-myung saw the young boy as his long-lost younger brother, which is why he risked his life to save him. He explained how the false reporting 13 years ago, which painted his heroic father as a fugitive, had led to his mother taking his brother and disappearing. In-ha realized Jae-myung was a victim of the fire incident. Enraged, she demanded the name of the unethical reporter. Just as Jae-myung was about to answer, Dalpo appeared and pulled In-ha away. In-ha assumed he was trying to sabotage her exclusive, but Dalpo warned her to stay away from Jae-myung, stating he was dangerous. In-ha, however, argued that someone who risked their life for a stranger couldn't be a bad person. Knowing his brother had begun his revenge, Dalpo grew increasingly desperate, repeatedly pleading with In-ha to understand the danger. Unable to reveal the truth, he could only beg her to trust him. Seeing his seriousness, In-ha finally agreed to avoid Jae-myung after the interview. Relieved, Dalpo watched them continue. Jae-myung greeted the cameraman like an old friend. The cameraman, flustered, hadn't expected to encounter Jae-myung again. Looking at In-ha's card, Jae-myung asked if she was Reporter Song's daughter. The cameraman hesitated, then confirmed it. "Amazing," Jae-myung mused. "Because of this incident, I get to meet Reporter Song's daughter. How interesting." During the interview, Jae-myung recounted how an unethical reporter had turned his firefighter father from a hero into a wanted criminal. However, the apology he received from the news station felt insincere. Seeing this, Dalpo knew his brother wouldn't stop. He brought flowers to his father's memorial, where a photo of their family and messages of apology from the public were displayed. Overcome with grief, he stood there in silence. Hearing footsteps, He quickly composed himself and turned around. Jae Myung still didn't recognize his younger brother, assuming he was there to pay his respects. When he learned Dal Po was a reporter, his demeanor instantly turned hostile. He even threw away the flowers Dal Po had brought. Dal Po followed him, asking, "Do you know Ki Deok-soo?" Jae Myung's face paled. Ki Deok-soo was the man. He had thrown down the manhole. He lied. "I don't know him," Dal Po continued. "He slandered your father years ago. His two accomplices have also met with unfortunate accidents." Jae Myung turned sharply. "They deserved it." He spat. "Death isn't enough to atone for what they did to my father." Dal Po seized on the opening. "I only said Deok, so was missing," he pointed out. "How can you be so sure he's dead?" He pressed further. "Do you want an apology or do you want revenge?" Jae Myung's voice was cold. "If I have to choose between the two, I choose revenge." He snatched Dal Po's recording phone and threw it into a nearby fire. Dal Po remained calm. The phone was a decoy. He had been recording their conversation with a device hidden in his tie clip. He didn't intend to give the recording to the police, only to convince his brother to stop. Meanwhile, the cameraman showed In-ha the footage of Jae Myung's interview from 13 years ago. In-ha was horrified to discover her mother was the reporter who had destroyed his family. The idealized image of her mother crumbled before her eyes. The cameraman warned her that something about Jae Myung felt off and urged her to be careful. Then, a pair of shoes in the video caught In-ha's attention. The cameraman explained they belonged to Jae Myung's younger brother. In-ha suddenly remembered Dal Po owning an identical shoe. She rushed home and showed the shoe to her grandfather, who explained that it was the reason he had taken Dal Po in. Everything clicked into place. Why Dal Po had suddenly turned cold towards her, why he teased her relentlessly, why he opposed her becoming a reporter, and why he'd been so furious during their debate. In-ha's heart ached. She couldn't bear to imagine the pain Dal Po had endured. "Your real name, it's Kia Myung, isn't it?" Dal Po, his face etched with pain, simply asked. How? How did you know? Public opinion could create heroes, turning dangerous individuals into national icons, but it could also invisibly destroy lives, turning a heroic firefighter into a fugitive and shattering a family. Knowing her mother was responsible, In-ha decided to seek justice for Dal Po. During her mother's public speaking event, in the final Q&A session, In-ha confronted her. 13 years ago, she began, her voice trembling. "During the fire incident, you prioritized sensationalism over truth, driving Ki Ha-myung's family to ruin." The room erupted in murmurs, but In-ha wasn't finished. "Because of your misleading reports," she continued, her voice rising, "the entire nation turned against them. Don't you understand how dangerous a report lacking truth and driven solely by sensationalism can be?" Her mother, even now, refused to accept responsibility, placing the blame on the man with Pinocchio syndrome. This reminded In-ha of her earlier debate with Dal Po. His words had silenced her then. Now she looked at him, echoing his accusations to her mother. "Everyone thinks reporters simply convey the truth," she said. "But whether you have Pinocchio syndrome or you're a reporter, you have to understand, people will believe your words unconditionally." In-ha's blunt words struck a chord with the malicious reporter, leaving her speechless. Even the executives observing the event were stunned. Only Won-ji voiced her support, praising In-ha's courage. After the event, In-ha worried about the repercussions, fearing she would be fired. Dal Po questioned her actions. He asked, "Why did you do that?" She replied, "I just couldn't stand it anymore." He pressed further. "Do you not care about your mother's feelings?" In-ha tried to avoid the question, but Dal Po gently held her arm, preventing her from leaving. She admitted she cared, but her mother was wrong, and if Dal Po wanted to pursue the matter, she wouldn't stand in his way. After they parted ways, Dal Po received a call from Byung-jo, warning him that Jae Myung might be at the MSC broadcasting station. Dal Po immediately rushed back. Jae Myung had indeed targeted In-ha. As she stepped out of the elevator, he grabbed her, demanding to know how she knew so much about his family. In-ha refused to implicate Dal Po. Just then, Dal Po arrived, pulling his brother off her. "Are you okay?" he asked In-ha, his voice filled with concern. As Jae Myung rose to his feet, they struggled. Suddenly, Dal Po revealed his identity. "Hyung," he cried. "It's me, Ha-myung." Jae Myung stared at him in disbelief. He'd always believed his younger brother had died, because of the reporters. In-ha confirmed Dal Po's identity. "You lied to me," Jae Myung accused him, his voice breaking. "You said Dad would come back. You said you would come back. We would watch fireworks together, and things would go back to normal. You promised." Memories flooded back to Jae Myung. Before setting out to avenge their father, he had repeatedly promised his younger brother he would return, but an unforeseen incident had prevented him from coming home that night, leading to their mother's desperate act. He finally recognized the man before him as his younger brother, Ha-myung. The brother he had mourned for 13 years was alive. Overwhelmed by joy and disbelief, he embraced him tightly. They went to a restaurant. Jae Myung still remembered his brother's preference, for pizza with more vegetables than meat. Touched by this small gesture, Dal Po listened as Jae Myung asked about his life. He recounted his rescue by the elderly man with dementia, who had treated him like a son. People approached Jae Myung for autographs. Seeing his brother celebrated as a hero, Dal Po felt a bitter pang. Jae Myung chuckled dryly. "It's ironic, isn't it?" he said. "Reporter Song ruined our family, and now she's made me a hero." He urged Dal Po to continue living as Dal Po, asking him to keep their relationship a secret. Dal Po, confused, questioned him. Did you cause those deaths?" he finally asked. "Yes, Ha Myung," Jae Myung replied, his words piercing Dal Po's heart like a knife. He had suspected the truth, but clung to a sliver of hope. Now, his worst fears were confirmed. He couldn't bring himself to expose his brother. Later, during a news team meeting, Won-ji suggested focusing on Jae Myung. While gathering information at the police station, she'd overheard officers discussing him as a suspect in several missing person cases. Jae Myung was currently a hot topic, and exposing the dark side of a national hero would generate unprecedented publicity for their network. Their boss immediately assigned Won-ji to the story. Panicked, Dal Po approached his boss, confessing the truth about his brother. He promised to convince Jae Myung to turn himself in, creating an even bigger scoop. His boss agreed, reassigning Won-ji and giving Dal Po full responsibility for the story. Won-ji was furious. "Why did you steal my story?" Dal Po could only apologize, leaving Won-ji to drown her sorrows in alcohol that night. However, when she woke up, she found herself in the newsroom and overheard that Jae Myung would be giving a special interview. She excitedly shared this information with Dal Po, who felt a growing sense of unease. He received an anonymous tip accusing his brother of murder. Fearing the worst, he raced to find Jae Myung. He asked, "Are you planning to take your revenge during the interview?" Jae Myung confirmed his intentions. Dal Po pleaded with him to turn himself in, promising to secure a lenient sentence. He couldn't bear to lose his brother again. Jae Myung refused, aware of Dal Po's feelings for In-ha. Not wanting to make things difficult for him, he turned and left. But Dal Po wasn't giving up. He confronted his brother again, declaring he had given up on In-ha. He then issued an ultimatum. If Jae Myung didn't agree to let him expose the truth, he would give the evidence to the police, preventing him from participating in the interview. Jae Myung finally relented. The brothers joined forces, devising a plan to expose the malicious reporter. She remained blissfully unaware of the impending danger. The interview began, and Dal Po set out to gather evidence against his brother. The reporter, intent on bolstering Jae Myung's heroic image, played a clip of his passionate plea for justice for his father 13 years prior, hoping to evoke sympathy from the audience and boost ratings. As expected, the clip generated significant public interest. However, things took an unexpected turn. Jae Myung questioned why they hadn't aired the original, unedited video. His interview from years ago wasn't intended to garner sympathy. The reporter, realizing her manipulation had been exposed, recalled how she had selectively aired only the most emotionally charged segments of Jae Myung's interview to maximize outrage. She attempted to change the subject, but Jae Myung pressed on. "Reporter Song," he said, his voice chilling. "You used clever editing to turn my father into a villain. How interesting." She tried to deny it, blaming the immaturity of the media landscape back then, and offering a hollow apology. But Jae Myung wasn't letting her off the hook. "Truly fascinating," he continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You turned a heroic firefighter into a fugitive, and then transformed me, a dangerous man, into a national hero." Silence fell over the studio, followed by a wave of murmurs. "If you don't believe me," Jae Myung challenged, "watch the news." At that moment, Dal Po, reporting live from the locations of Jae Myung's crimes, exposed the truth. The public was stunned. Moments ago, Jae Myung had been a national hero. Now, he was being exposed as a dangerous criminal. After his report, Dal Po revealed his true identity as Ki Ha Myung. His grandfather and brother, watching the broadcast, finally learned his real name. Dal Po then appeared outside the broadcasting station, where police cars were waiting for Jae Myung to surrender. Jae Myung emerged, and the brothers, reunited after 13 years, now faced another separation. Dal Po, filled with remorse, apologized repeatedly. Jae Myung cupped his face. "Today is just the beginning," he said. "From now on, you have to face Song Cha-ok alone. Show her, and me, what a real reporter is." Jae Myung knew he couldn't take down someone as powerful as Reporter Song. He had to entrust that task to his brother. Returning home, Dal Po packed his bags, preparing for a long battle. He bid farewell to his grandfather, his heart heavy as he formally severed their adoptive ties. His grandfather didn't want him to leave, but Dal Po knew he couldn't stay. Not while he was pursuing In-ha's mother. He couldn't face In-ha. Listening to his footsteps fade away, In-ha, hidden behind her door, wept silently. Jae Myung was quickly escorted to the crime scenes for identification. Surrounded by a throng of reporters, the scene mirrored the media frenzy 13 years ago. But this time, they weren't victims. They were enacting revenge. The same reporter who had used her words to turn a hero into a fugitive and a dangerous man into a national icon now faced her reckoning. She hadn't anticipated a national hero confessing his crimes on live television, accusing her of prioritizing ratings over truth. While this single act didn't destroy her career, it severely damaged her credibility. Over time, other instances of her fabricated reporting were unearthed. Public outcry erupted on social media, and protests demanding her resignation gathered outside her company's building. Then, another victim of her false reporting emerged. Mr. Park, a former bus company owner. One of his drivers had embezzled funds, and the following day, he died mysteriously. Without any evidence, the reporter published a story claiming the driver had taken his own life due to the dismissal, leading to a boycott and the eventual bankruptcy of Mr. Park's company. Now Mr. Park, holding the driver's death certificate stating he had died of a heart attack, demanded an apology and a retraction. This new development put the reporter under intense scrutiny from her superiors. Learning she hadn't even bothered to verify the cause of death, they furiously demanded a solution, threatening to replace her as chief editor. They dispatched In-ha and Byom-jo to investigate, while Dal-po and Won-ji were also assigned to the story. Dal-po informed his brother about the situation, realizing that if reported truthfully, this could be the final blow to the reporter's career. In-ha and Byom-jo reached Mr. Park first, eager to understand the truth. Dal-po and Won-ji arrived soon after, and Mr. Park agreed to speak with all four of them. He revealed he'd recently learned from the driver's brother that the death was due to a stroke, not suicide, and produced the death certificate. With the document in hand, the next step was verification. The four reporters decided to cooperate. In-ha would verify the death certificate. Byom-jo would interview the driver's colleagues. Won-ji would speak with the driver's family, and Dal-po would confront the reporter. Dal-po didn't waste any time. He demanded, "On what basis did you conclude he committed suicide?" There were many indications. She responded defensively. "Did you see the death certificate?" Dal-po pressed. "There was testimony." She began. "Did you see the death certificate?" He interrupted. "We found a suicide note." She tried again. "Did you see the death certificate?" Dal-po repeated firmly. "It wasn't necessary," she retorted, her composure finally cracking. There was other evidence. The usually unflappable reporter was visibly agitated. Dal-po smiled inwardly. She was losing control. He later learned from Byom-jo that the driver's colleagues confirmed his history of heart problems. Won-ji also returned, confirming from the driver's brother that he hadn't taken his own life. However, Dal-po still felt uneasy. While all the evidence pointed to the reporter's fabrication, something felt off. They just needed In-ha to confirm the authenticity of the death certificate, and the reporter would have no way out. The consequences of her false reporting would finally catch up to her, but In-ha hesitated to release the document. Dal-po called her, but she didn't answer. She texted him, saying she was fine, but he remembered her saying the same thing after meeting her mother, even though she'd been crying. Worried, he went to look for her and found her standing outside the newsroom, clearly conflicted. It turned out In-ha had learned from the doctor that Mr. Park's death certificate was forged, missing a crucial section. She had obtained the real certificate from the doctor. Not wanting to disappoint Dal-po, she was about to tear up the documents when she saw him approaching. In-ha turned and ran. Dal-po chased after her, demanding to know what she was doing. She hesitated, unable to speak. "Well?" he pressed. "What happened? Was it wrong? Did your mother report it incorrectly?" In-ha reluctantly revealed the truth. The death certificate was forged. The driver had committed suicide. Dal-po was stunned. They were so close to exposing her, but the truth had shattered their hopes. Arriving home, Dal-po found his grandfather and brother waiting. He had intended to maintain his distance, but 13 years of familial bonds weren't easily broken. His grandfather, worried about him living alone, had come to check on him, fussing over the heating, sealing the windows against the cold, and reminding him to eat properly. Dal-po was deeply touched. His brother also left the neighbor's phone number, urging Dal-po to call him if he needed anything. Before leaving, his grandfather reassured him, "I will never abandon you. Remember that. No matter what anyone says, you will always be my son." Later, Dal-po opened the bag his grandfather had brought, finding a persimmon, a scarf, and a note reminding him to eat regularly and take care of his health. Clutching the scarf, he felt the warmth of their love. The next morning, protesters gathered outside the reporter's company building, demanding an apology. As her car arrived, they surged forward, blocking her path. She remained calm, stepping out to face them. Reporters swarmed her, questioning her about the inaccuracies in the Mr. Park story. Watching the scene unfold, Dal-po was reminded of his own childhood trauma, but he felt no satisfaction. If he stood by and did nothing, how was he any different from the unethical reporters he despised? He couldn't stand it any longer. He stepped forward, presenting evidence that exposed Mr. Park's lie. The original certificate stated the cause of death was a drug overdose. He revealed, "Why did you forge it, Mr. Park?" Exposed Mr. Park fled the scene. The reporter stared at Dal Po, stunned. Why was he helping her? I did what a reporter should do, he explained. What you should have done 13 years ago. That's why. Even when you're telling the truth, no one believes you. His words hit her hard. Dal Po had fulfilled his promise to his brother, showing her what a real reporter was. In Ha, watching them, felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. The truth, however painful, had finally come to light. To everyone's surprise, the reporter held a press conference, publicly apologizing for her past misconduct, announcing her resignation as chief editor, and expressing remorse for her actions. Even Dal Po was taken aback. By helping his enemy escape public condemnation, he had inadvertently prompted her to step down. As she packed her belongings, she dropped a box of items. In Ha helped her gather them, asking what she planned to do next. The reporter didn't answer, simply telling In Ha to be a good reporter, not like her. Dal Po found In Ha and apologized for his past behavior, finally confessing his feelings. In Ha didn't blame him, expressing her concerns about their relationship, given her mother's history with his family. Dal Po pulled her close, holding her tightly. Time passed quickly. As the new year approached, both Dal Po and In Ha thrived in their careers. Although living separately, they commuted to work together every day, their phone calls lingering even after they reached their respective stations. Their love was undeniable. Then came a pivotal moment. Dal Po's brothers showed their grandfather childhood photos of Dal Po and In Ha, expressing his support for their relationship. He revealed that Dal Po had harbored feelings for In Ha for 10 years, but had honored his father's memory by maintaining the uncle-niece dynamic. Touched by Dal Po's loyalty and gratitude, despite their earlier agreement to dissolve the adoption, the grandfather realized they were still legally family. He had an idea. The next day, he met with Dal Po and officially annulled the adoption. Dal Po was surprised. He asked, "What's going on, Grandpa?" His grandfather, his voice thick with emotion, explained his decision, restoring Dal Po's legal name and identity. "Thank you, Grandpa." "Thank you, Dad," Dal Po said, embracing him. It wasn't just Dal Po who was grateful for their time together. His grandfather was equally thankful for having him as a son. Later, he took Dal Po and In Ha wedding dress shopping. He beamed at the sight of them, while Dal Po's brother excitedly snapped photos. In Ha finally asked the question that had lingered in her mind since middle school. "Why did you fight for me back then?" Dal Po smiled. "Because I liked you." The story concluded with their beautiful wedding ceremony. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.